open this up and see if it actually works. I'm so glad you said something about cross-country skiing, because even though we haven't gone in a few years, but we always were going all that time. And of course, there's never any snow lately anyway, but I really never realized, because I've never been near that golf course and gone down the highway to see anyone skiing. So that's, it's because it's nice and seems to be pretty kind of rolling hills, which is my speed. Yeah, and this year they said they didn't have it open most of the year because
I know
they
they're
didn't
only
even.
like 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Anybody need to do PowerPoint tonight? Yeah. HDMI, or you need an adapter?
I know. I wish I could. I was sitting there. I was going around. I'm like, I know, man.
I'll read past when you come up to talk. I'll come up and give you handy. I also have a power strip down there. All right. It should be Yep, that's fine. Got another adapter I'm gonna try with you.
Not this time. That's right.
So this was on the table, it's not yours.
Oh, we did come up. Great. We did, yeah. I'm not sure what order that you're in. I just wanted to check. Yeah, first actually. Yeah. We normally Okay.
These notes.
So you said
What year was
Like
this?
3 years ago, that's right.
Listening to one of the planning board meetings. This is not something that we're doing.
Hello again.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Yeah. You can also hit the button.
Okay, 1 minute, we'll start, okay? Give you a minute after you leave the room, Tom.
Hopefully.
Is the printed staff report any different than what you emailed out?
Can you give me a Zoom tone real quick? Oh, wow, that's fine. That's good. You can turn that off. You can put us on the air and leave Zoom.
Recording in progress.
Good to go? Everyone set? Microphones on? Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the May 21, 2025 meeting of the Project Review Board. This is the second phase of our meeting tonight because we just had a site walk off-site for the first agenda item. Tonight we have a site plan review for Maine Golf Association. We have 2 shoreland zoning permits for shoreland stabilization, a project on Route 1 site plan review, and a project across the street site plan review, and at the end, election of officers for the coming year for the Project Review Board. I was not here at the last meeting. I wanted to welcome Drew Sachs. His first meeting was last month as a new member of the board, and Dan Lynch was appointed by the town council last night, and he'll be joining us at the next meeting. Everybody is here tonight and physically in the room, no Zoomers, except Lynn Hamlin is excused, but we do have a quorum. Kyle, information exchange?
So comprehensive plan is still with the state in that review process, so we're still waiting to hear back any comments from them. Should be coming in the next month to 2 months, so we'll let you know when that happens. Topics reviewed by the planning board. At our last meeting, we brought the idea of discussing amendments to our campground ordinance. So the project review board has talked about that before, how that ordinance section needs some clarification. So we did discuss that. The planning board was in favor of going towards a not net residential, but a net calculation in terms of density for campgrounds, but making sure that that is clearly spelled out. So that it's more clear for this board to use in practice. So we will probably be bringing a draft and having that public hearing at our upcoming June 4th planning board meeting. So that should be starting the adoption process over the next couple months. And then we also had a presentation from North Star consultants at our last planning board meeting around some high-level design review ordinance questions, just for the planning board to weigh in on and give some kind of general feedback as they're working on putting the first draft together. So we should have a first complete draft of the design review ordinance update to go to the planning board in July or August. So we'll let project review board members know when that's on the agenda. So if anyone wants to attend, to kind of, offer any comments or take part in that conversation, they can. That's pretty much it on that. Staff approvals, we have not had any staff approvals this past month. We do have a staff review board meeting scheduled for next Tuesday at 1 p.m. We have 2 change of use applications that came in. One for 35 Main Street, one of the units in that building, going from retail to office space, and then 176 US Route 1, which is sort of an after-the-fact application to bring them into compliance for 2 dwelling units that they have on the 2nd floor of the bookshop there. Both of those, there's no changes to the overall footprint or the site at all. It's just purely changes of use inside the building. So those trigger review by the staff review board. That's pretty much it.
Quick question on the planning board.
Yep.
They mentioned an upcoming event having to do with walkability in the village and a prominent speaker, Jeff
Yes.
Beck, is that what it was?
Yep, with Jeff Speck. So I believe that is, Brett's going to yell at me if I get the date wrong. I think it's June 17th.
Okay,
Yeah, June 17th is that event.
so it's for real, good.
That's tied to our PPI project along Route 1. There are some next steps there. It's kind of tied to the next steps of the dog bone report work that was done and the TOD TIF work. So yeah, that'll be on June 17th.
Okay.
And Kyle, am I correct that this is the last meeting when we will be handling most shoreline stabilization projects at the board level? Because the
Yep.
DEP said you can go to staff?
Correct. Yeah, Town Council did approve last night at its public hearing that the shoreline stabilization projects can now go to staff review board. That ordinance amendment passed. So these applications tonight for shoreline stabilization should be the last ones that need to come to the project review board.
One more question for you. On the sewer district plan for landscaping, has that come back to you and approved and all that? Is that
Yep.
just-
So they did come back with their updated landscaping plan, I believe last week. We've found a peer review landscape architect that I've been communicating with and sent the plans to. They gave their first memo back earlier yesterday, I believe. So we forward those comments along. There were just a couple comments. Largely, the plan that the sewer district came back with, I think, accomplished what the board was interested in seeing. But we had a couple small comments to relay back to the sewer district. So once they come back with a response to that, we should be pretty good to go on that condition of approval.
Great.
I have a question also. I'm not, the staff, can you explain who is on the staff review board? When I look it up on the town stuff, is that with you and the police chief and the fire chief and?
It's someone from planning, police, fire, code, and public works.
So when we have something that goes to them or goes for your review, is there a distinction between review that you are doing as the planner versus the staff review board that has I'm not saying they don't know anything about any of our rules, and they are probably too busy to want to learn all this stuff, but it seems that some of this stuff, maybe you would want more expertise from planning to be on that, and I was confused because I looked it up and saw this. It wasn't just you.
So we have a tiered system for site plan amendments, basically. Really small scale things can be staff approved just by me. Then there's things like changes of use or small additions like between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet of new building or parking area that go to the staff review board. And then greater things come to the project review board. So the idea is that it's smaller scale things that wouldn't necessarily require a lot of feedback by the board and can be managed by staff.
Yeah, no, I'm not
But
asking.
we're still using the same criteria to judge those projects. So the same performance standards, the same site plan criteria are still met. Yeah.
I'm not asking for things to come back here.
Yep.
That is not my intention. I was just, when I was reading some of the information, and there's some other things that come up, and it says staff review board, and it was just, I looked, and I was a little bit confused as to why there weren't more planning board-related people as opposed to the heads of, I would hope the police chief and the fire chief are well occupied in their time and shouldn't have to learn all the rules that we have.
Well, they're there. Basically, the staff review board, I don't want to get too much into this, but they're set up to kind of to tackle, the same kind of, like we reach out to all of those departments for feedback on project review board applications. So fire is there to talk about, the findings like emergency access, and police can speak to some, traffic concerns, and code can speak to some of the, more zoning and land use interpretation things. And so it's meant to be a kind of well-rounded team to, Public Works can talk about erosion or, small drainage things. It's meant that, each department can kind of speak towards their kind of key issues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just was a little confused.
Next matter is review of the minutes from the April 16 meeting. They're in our packet. We've had a chance to review them. Are there any suggested changes or additions? Is there a motion to accept them as presented?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous, Sharon, thank you. First item is site plan review at 2 Old County Road, Maine Golf. You want to give us some staff background?
Sure. So I think we're just on the sidewalk, so I think everyone's generally familiar now. The applicant came a couple of months ago for a sketch plan meeting here. Now they're coming back for their full site plan application. The site is, of course, the existing golf course, so there's no change of use that we're looking at here, but the addition of the new roughly 6,000 square foot driving range structure is what triggers the site plan amendment that we're looking at. There was, I'll let the applicant go into most things, but I just want to call attention to a couple kind of unique situations here. As we discussed at the sketch plan meeting and at the site walk, the proposed lighting that they're proposing in the range, because it's not shielded cutoff lighting, which is a standard in our exterior lighting standards. It does require a waiver. The applicant submitted that waiver request in the supplemental materials that they submitted. The board, under our exterior lighting standards, is allowed to grant that waiver. There's clear guidance in the ordinance that the board has the authority to do that if there is a unique circumstance. So because our exterior lighting standards are not really geared towards an outdoor recreation or golf course or athletic type lighting situation, I do think that there's, that warrants the board granting that waiver if they feel like the general intent of the lighting that the applicant has proposed kind of meets the intent of the standards there. They have submitted a number of things in their application, the lighting simulation, photometric plans showing the light levels at various parts of the course, where most of it is focused right in on that driving range area, away from 295 and any other abutting property lines. So that is one thing that the board should just keep in mind as they're making any proposed motions. They should address that waiver request. In addition, the original application plans that were submitted, I think there was just a discrepancy or miscommunication where the driving range structure was shown as slightly smaller than what it would actually be. So in their supplemental plans, they showed the actual size. So if you look at the original grading plan, you can see the area that was graded. The structure was a little smaller. On the updated plans, they show the structure kind of taking up that full area that's surrounded by the new grading. So overall, that doesn't change any of the intent of what was written in the staff report. I think those updated plans did kind of show a few small differences, which the applicant can address more. But it updated kind of which side of the driving range structure the walkway would be extended to. Looked like there were a couple small changes to some of the landscaping that was proposed. And our peer review engineer did provide a memo that just had a few comments related towards kind of matching the new footprint and size of the structure and walkway to the calculations in the stormwater management report. So we did put a condition of approval on the proposed motion that those comments would be addressed if the board did feel comfortable approving the project. Other than that, we've talked about with the applicant before that they have some plans to potentially come back to the board in the near future for, larger scale changes to the site with the clubhouse and parking area. There's no changes at this time to the parking area. Our police chief had made a comment in his staff comments about the potential for, possibly more traffic to the site with the improvements to the driving range. Because it's not a change of use where they're expecting, substantial increase in hitting bays versus what's currently allowed. We don't feel like there's any requirement to upgrade the parking area at this time, especially when there seems to be looming plans to upgrade that in the near future. But the board can dive into that more if they have more questions for the applicant. Other than that, happy to answer any questions, but I would turn it over to Chris for the rest.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. And I'll just introduce myself really quickly. I'm Neil Angis, President of the Board of Directors of Maine Golf. I'll introduce Chris in a minute to talk through the details of the project, but I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come out and see the site with us today. Thankfully, we didn't need any hard hats to deflect any oncoming golf balls out there. Our mission at Maine Golf is to strengthen today's game, launch tomorrow's, and grow the collective, lead the collective effort to grow golf in Maine. And we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. This facility is really our headquarters for a statewide organization that oversees the efforts to grow golf in Maine and protect the future of the industry in our state. And this facility in particular, as I've had the chance to discuss with a few of you on the site walk, is really focused on junior golf and family golf. A big part of our mission is launching tomorrow's game, as I mentioned. And so what we're really trying to do here is create a facility that's creating access and opportunity for young people and for families to access this game, which for any of you who play and have played know that it's got innumerable benefits and they're lifelong. And so I want to thank, again, everybody for your consideration of our project, and I will turn it over to Chris Taylor, who is the engineer on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Chris Taylor. I'm a professional engineer with Sebago Technics representing the applicant. And hopefully this will load. We had it tested up earlier, but I can give a brief rundown of the project and what we're proposing, and then kind of walk you through the plans and show you what the building's going to look like. The existing course has a 9-hole golf course, has a driving range, as Kyle explained. We're trying to build a covered hitting bay structure, relocate that range. The existing range is going to be discontinued. There's a number of issues with the existing driving range with topography that makes it troublesome to kind of operate, maintain ball collection, that sort of thing. The golf course parcel is 163 acres currently. Maine Golf has a purchase and sales agreement to purchase 110 acres of that, which basically encompasses the 9-hole golf course and everything that's been kind of cleared and used for the golf course currently. There's some remaining wooded area that would stay with the current owner. We are also proposing to, as part of this project, and when we were out on the site walk, there were kind of two sides to the hitting bay. One, there's a little bit of an angle to it. The current construction sequence is to build all the earthwork, build the concrete pad for the hitting bays, and then construct the left side of the hitting bay structure. So the superstructure itself would be the first construction sequence of it would be to get the left side up and operational. with the covered hitting bay, get everything operational, then come back and do the right side later down the road. Assuming everything goes well, there's a success for it, they can fund the project for the right side as well. For stormwater for the covered hitting bays, we're proposing a drip edge along the back side of the building. It's kind of a shed roof, so it all drains to the back. It'll be picked up by a roof drip edge with an under drain that'll have sand for filtering of the stormwater runoff. We're also proposing a meadow buffer for the short extension of the cart path and walkway to get up to the building.
Can I use one of your
Yeah.
USB ports?
Pull either one out. There's no water or sewer connection to the building, just going to be an electrical connection. There's a bump out off the back that's kind of serves as the entrance to the hitting range. That's where you can go pick up your golf balls. The servers for the tracking system will be located in kind of that bump out that's on the back of the building. That's where the electrical service will go to that. On the plans, we had showed, the original plan we submitted showed an overhead.
Looks like the plan's up now.
Yeah,
Tom.
we're good.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the plan of the site with the the proposed hitting bay structure located here. The existing parking lot is located here with the existing clubhouse in this area right here. You can see the clearing for the golf course, the various holes that are around, which will be relocated as part of and reconfigured as part of this project as well. That is, lighting for the project. If we kind of look at the zoomed in plan here, we've got 6 light fixtures that are proposed. This plan is showing the contours and the proposed grading. These are 4 light fixtures that are directly in front of the hitting bays. They'll be set lower than the hitting bay so that they don't have any obstruction when you're hitting golf balls. Be pointed out in front so that directed towards the direction of where you're hitting the golf balls, away from 295, away from any abutting residences, out towards the golf course and the wooded buffer. There's additionally, if we go back one, there's 2 lights that will be located downrange, shown here on the plan. Those are faced directly away from 295. These are ground-mounted lights that are aimed across the ground. As Kyle mentioned, we're requesting the waiver because they're not downward facing. This is kind of an image of what the light fixture looks like. So those will be tilted, so they're pointing directly across the ground. For that, we did submit a photometric plan along with our application, kind of showing those light levels out in the driving range area. This plan here, which was submitted subsequently, shows what that hitting bay structure will look like. This top part, we're looking at the structure from the rear. So as you're approaching from the parking lot and the clubhouse, there's garage doors that'll be glass on the back side of it. This is that bump out where the pathway is directed to for people to enter the site or enter the facility. These 2 are the end views. So there's a sidewall at each end of the structure to help enclose it a little bit more, break down or reduce the wind going through the structure, help extend those hours on colder days like today. We were out there, it was getting a little chilly. Better to hit golf balls when it's less windy. This bottom one's kind of the front view. It's a little hard to see, but it's open in the front as you're hitting the golf balls out. Also wanted to show on the site plan, we did submit a landscaping plan with this. This is the older layout, the shorter building. This one hasn't been updated yet, but we are proposing a number of plantings around the base of the building, trees for screening and shade. Tom Farmer, the landscape architect for the project, is here and can answer any questions you have regarding that. Trying to keep as many of the trees as possible between the parking lot and the hitting base structure, but there are a few that will have to get removed that we discussed on the site walk. And with that, I'll turn it back to the board.
Any questions? Chris, the lights that you showed, those are mounted at grade, right?
Yeah, they're down on the ground. They're not pole mounted or sitting up high.
May? I know we discussed this on the sidewalk, just for the purposes of the record here. The plan is to have those lights on during the business hours, correct? And then when at the end of business hours, they'll be shut off.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Just clarification, so the initial phase will be 10 bays roughly?
Yes.
And will there still be a side, at the end of the 10th bay, if you will, to the right, there will be a sidewall temporarily until you do the second phase? Is that?
That's correct. They're actually able to take that end wall and repurpose it once the next 10 get constructed and put it at the other end. So,
Great, thank
so
you.
there's no removal of that.
And during that same phase, I presume you'll just have lights supporting those 10 bays that are active?
There'll be,
Or you'll need all of them to?
we'll need all the exterior ones. There's lights that will be underneath the structure to light where, the mats and the hitting area. So only the covered hitting bays, so those, if it's not, it wouldn't be able to be used at night unless you're in the covered area because of the lighting that would be needed to be able to see the ball and hitting it itself.
And the uncovered part, can still be used, just it won't be covered until you.
Yeah, so we'd do all the earthwork, we'd get the pad ready with the hitting mats there. So they would be used, to be used only during the day, just like a normal driving range in a way, so.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions,
I have
Linda?
one. In the new hitting bay area, there's no facilities, no bathroom or anything, that's all going to stay in the clubhouse building?
That's correct. Yep.
One question on the lighting plan. It shows 0.1 and 0.2 foot candles, is that correct?
It does, yeah. We've been working with the company that's, it's called Cover the Tees. They're the company that designs the structure and some of the lighting for this. We've been working with them on what's considered adequate lighting for what's needed for the tracking technology. And it wasn't the intent to light up the whole driving range area. So if you're hitting drives, hitting the driver, it goes 200 yards or plus, that'll become a dark spot, but the monitors are able to still kind of track that. So what we've heard is at other facilities is people that are there at night, they're there to because it's a smart, we'll call it a smart or a tracking driving range. So it tracks the ball, tells you how far it went, what the spin was, that sort of stuff that golfers care about. So even though you can't see it, the monitors and we'll be able to kind of pick it up like you would inside like an indoor driving simulator or something like that.
So that level of foot candles seems low, right? So it's not, thinking in terms of the waiver request, you're not creating a bright condition. It's just grazing the ground at a fairly low level.
Yeah, this isn't going to be Hadlock Field or anything like that with those, tall stadium-mounted lights and illuminating the whole area.
When I spoke briefly to you, Chris, and Tom about this, we don't handle phased approvals on a routine basis. It's helpful to have a general idea of what's coming, even though you don't have enough detail to submit now. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we might see within the next year or so?
Yeah, so what we've been working with Maine Golf on is, for the most part, a new clubhouse. The existing clubhouse is a pretty basic structure with pretty basic heating, cooling systems, bathroom facilities, that sort of thing. So working with Maine Golf to get a more a better structure that's up to today's codes and has some office space in it, would have some larger space, but not, this isn't a private 18-hole golf course with a banquet and a full restaurant or anything like that. We're just trying to, they're trying to increase the facility they have a little bit, include some office space. As we're looking at that, we're looking at the parking lot, what the parking demand would be with the new clubhouse, and how that kind of changes the use of the site, and that sort of thing. So in terms of its location, this is the existing clubhouse here. We intend to have it be located between the Old County Road that got discontinued and the proposed hitting bays here. So it could relocate, replace the clubhouse that's located here. It could kind of be located a little bit further back and closer to the hitting bays. We're still kind of trying to vet through that of where the best location is. Balance that location with the parking lot, additional spaces and that sort of thing.
It sounds, even though Freeport has potentially a burdensome parking requirement for golf courses, it sounds like you can set aside land and we have the latitude to waive that requirement on the front end. But you'd have to have the land set aside to do that.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it as well, of being able to show where all the parking spaces could go and then kind of pull back from there and not necessarily build them right up front. So.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there a motion? Well, I'm sorry, one thing. This is not a public hearing, but we invite public comment. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay, is there a motion?
Propose a motion. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of fact, site plan review, and waiver request regarding exterior lighting for a new driving range structure and associated site improvements at 2 County Road, Tax Assessor Map 26, Lot 38, to be built substantially as proposed, with the application dated April 30th, 2025, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to the construction, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Freeport Codes Enforcement Department. 3, prior to the issuance of any building permits, the applicant does the following. A, establish an inspection account and the amount to be determined for the inspection of site improvements by the town. B, establish a performance guarantee in the amount to cover the cost of all site work associated with the project in the amount to be determined in a form acceptable to the town attorney. The performance guarantee shall cover the cost of all site work. Along with the performance guarantee, a non-refundable administrative fee at the rate established by Freeport Town Council be paid. C, address the comments made by the town's peer review engineer in a memo dated May 15th, 2025, with said comment response being subject to a follow-up review by the town's peer review engineer. D, the developer have a pre-construction meeting with the town planner. And E, provide an updated landscaping plan to show any required changes to the proposed plantings shown in sheet L-101 of the plan set due to be revised driving range entrance location.
Is there a second? Second. And Kyle, as written, this also approves the request for waiver for lighting.
Correct.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, no abstentions. Thank you very much for bringing this project to town.
Great
Looks
project. Good stuff.
Next item is Thomas and Catherine Wilbur, 50 McGanza Way, shoreline zoning permit for shoreland stabilization, and this is the after the fact, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
The representative of the applicant?
Do you want me to give a brief?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just give a really brief overview. There's not too much for staff input on this one. As we noted in the staff report and as was shown in the application, this project was actually exempt from DEP permitting. The applicant had worked with DEP on that piece of it because of the orientation of the lot and where the stabilization work was taking place. There was actually, is more of an emergency condition relating to the existing private way there, which provides access to several lots in that area. So on DEP side, there's an exemption for that type of emergency work. On the town's shoreline zoning ordinance, we don't have such exemption, so because of that kind of need for the work to happen rather urgently, the applicant went forward and did the stabilization work, knowing that they just had to come before the board, though, for the after-the-fact approval. So that's why we're here. There was no proposed impact below the high annual tide line, so no coastal wetland impacts reported. The applicant did follow up with an after-the-fact or a supplemental submission and drawing of the work as it was constructed, which we forwarded to the board, and it's on the table for any members of the public since we didn't get a chance to post those online with the other materials. Other than that, there were no concerns from staff here, so I would just turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Kyle.
Before we begin, if I may, I don't believe this is an issue, but I do want to make it known to the board that I did have some conversations with the applicant about this project in the development stage of the project associated with the FEMA grant that he's been pursuing for this. I have no financial interest in the project. I was not paid for that work, but I just wanted to lay that out. So if anyone on the board has a concern about it, or anyone in the public has a concern about it, then we can address that here.
Doesn't sound like any conflict under our ordinance, but thanks a lot.
Right, Mr. Chairman, my name is Peter Spencer. I'm from Waterman Marine, representing the Wilburs. This has been an interesting planning case. We started off in April of last year after the storms of the January had done a lot of damage to the frontage. There was a stone-filled crib wall that had been built there, and we're not sure when. We believe it was in the 60s at some point in time, and it managed to survive all of the things that nature could throw at it for all these years until that major storm. We had two of them in January of last year. Basically, water overflowed the wall, and the downdraft broke the cribbing, and most of it ended up on the beach. Basically, it's about 100 and what was destroyed was about 115 feet. So we applied for relief from the Department of Environmental Protection under a permit by rule, and that was rejected initially, and we were looking for a replacement of structures, and they came back and said, no, this is the wrong section, so we have to do this. So we reapplied, basically the same thing. It was in abeyance at the DEP for many months, they having problems with staffing and with people to handle the overload of work that had come out of the January storms. So after many discussions with the DEP, we were at a standstill. We had, at that time, all of the owners from number 50 to the island in favor of having their properties remediated at the same time. And application was made through FEMA, through the fire department here, and that being the representative on the town. So we had an election last January, and the prospect of FEMA promoting or providing any assistance for the disaster relief rapidly disappeared. So we spoke to the DEP again and said that we've got a crisis situation here. This is an emergency. We had a chasm under the road initially about 6 feet deep and about 8 feet wide, roughly, that the water had rushed out. And essentially what happened was that the DEP agreed that we could proceed on without a permit on the basis that we had submitted. That was on the 28th of February. We were right in the just at the cusp of roads being posted, so we really couldn't do anything until after the middle of March. And towards the end of March, we proceeded to start the work and finished it up. And we ended up doing 135 feet, which is most of the frontage for the Wilbur property, leaving a couple of feet on either side of the boundary, which we couldn't really get the equipment in properly to do it, but it's not it turned out to be a rather insignificant spot. We don't have to be concerned about it. So that's the background of this situation. So we finished the work, and I was advised by Alex Sirois that we needed to appear before this committee. So we filed an application, and here we are.
Here you are. Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the board for the applicant? Once again, this is not a public hearing, but we don't mind hearing from the public. Any abutters or neighbors who have questions or comments? Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Thank you.
Sure. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve an after-the-fact shoreline zoning permit for Thomas and Catherine Wilbur for a shoreline stabilization project at Tax Assessor Map 5A, Lots 9 and 10A, 50 Merganser Way, to be built substantially as proposed in an application dated April 15th, 2025, finding that it meets the standards of Section 306 and Section 404 of the Town of Freeport Shoreland Zoning Ordinance, with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. And 2, the applicant obtain any applicable after-the-fact permits from the Freeport Codes Enforcement Office.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous, Sharon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Third agenda item is Irene and David Hutton at 391 Lower Flying Point Road, again for a shoreline zoning point permit for shoreline stabilization, and represented by Flycatcher.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Waddle with Flycatcher. I'm here on behalf of Irina and David Hutton for the stabilization of their shoreline at 391 Lower Flying Point Road. The proposed stabilization consists of placement of irregular stones that are 2 to 4 feet in diameter along approximately 70 feet of the applicant's shoreline. This will be broken up into 3 different sections based on the extent of erosion. All of the sections in the work will be above the highest annual tide line, so therefore there will be no direct impacts to the coastal wetland. There will be one oak tree removed and that has exposed roots and replanted in the upland. There will also be native plantings established at the top of the riprap once construction is complete. And this project is going to happen simultaneously with 3 other properties along the shoreline. So the temporary construction access will actually be shared and will not be on their parcel, it'll be on the adjacent abutters property. And
I'm going to call out the one tree that's being removed, Kelly.
I skipped you again, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I didn't have much to
sorry.
add. So I was just going to add the proposed tree, the one tree that's proposed to be removed is in this area, and then the replanting is just up the bank of that. So, on the revegetation front, staff didn't have any concerns on this.
Okay.
Kelly, have all 3 other projects that will coincide with this work already appeared before us and been approved?
They have.
All of them, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this is the shortest distance and the only one that is all above the hat.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
I just had one for edification, really, but the sections A, B, and C for this work are different than we've seen for some of the other applications, in that the stone is being pinned to the ledge. What makes up this difference in this case? Is it in relationship to the?
I'm trying to remember. I believe the previous ones were also 2 to 4 in height and also pinned to ledge or buried in a trench, fit into place. But we broke it into different sections for this one, just because even though it was a shorter distance, the shoreline varied greatly. Like one section had what appeared to be some previous smaller stones that were added to the shoreline to protect it, but instead of staying in place because they were too small, they kind of came down the shore. So those are going to be removed and larger riprap will be installed with a buffer for vegetation. And then the other 2, I think C had a bit more upland vegetation than A, and so they all kind of varied slightly, so we just wanted to make sure impacts could be avoided as much as possible.
So the pinning of the stones, is it actually, you actually drill a hole through the stone to pin it?
It's, pinned to ledge with rebar.
Okay. Any other questions? Questions from the public? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Linda.
I had to find it on here. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve a shoreline zoning permit for Irene and David Hutton for a shoreline stabilization project at Tax Assessor Map 5A, Lot 77, 391 Lower Flying Point Road, excuse me, to be built substantially as proposed in an application dated 4/10/2025, finding that it meets the standards of Section 306 and Section 404 of the Town of Freeport Shoreline Zoning Ordinance with the following conditions of approval. 1, this approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. 2, prior to the start of any site work for the project, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Freeport Code Enforcement Officer. And 3, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. Sorry.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, Sharon. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next matter is Bush Cricket Properties for new project at 298 US Route 1, and this is a sketch plan or a concept presentation only as required by site plan ordinance, but it's our first exposure to it. Kyle?
Yeah, so as Ford mentioned, this is a conceptual plan review, so no decision or findings from the board, more informational for the board and public. The site is currently developed with an existing commercial use that's proposed to remain the same. However, the building would be demoed, and the existing parking that's on the site would be increased and more formalized with what's proposed by the applicant. I'll let them go into more details on, what's actually being proposed for the parking and the new building. But just some things to highlight here as we start to think about this project. The applicant had mentioned in their narrative, they referenced some stormwater plans addressing stormwater in that kind of back area of the lot. You'll see that there's some grading proposed around the parking area to carry that stormwater to the back of the lot. So as we look for the full application coming forward, we'll get those complete stormwater plans, and those will be peer reviewed by the town's peer review engineer. The C1 district are commercial districts in terms of off-street parking. There isn't a set minimum required parking amount in our commercial districts. It's really up to the board to establish the minimum parking account based on a parking analysis provided by the applicant. So we'll look for a little more information there. In terms of the use the applicant's proposing, number of employees, kind of people they're expecting, trips they're expecting to the site in the full application, and then compare that to the off-street parking that's being proposed on the site. You'll notice in the report we called out the increase in impervious area on the site. So there's a decent increase here from what's existing to what's proposed. However, it falls within the allowances of the C1 zoning district. So there wasn't a concern there. The applicant showed the required 15-foot landscape setbacks, both in the front and on the side property lines. But the board might want to get into some discussion with the applicant about further landscaping plans as they submit their full application. And the other thing to note in regards to that front setback is you would have seen on the plan that the applicant had proposed that 5-foot wide walkway in the right-of-way that's from an ordinance requirement. All properties in the commercial 1 district have to abide by those standards in section 527 of our zoning ordinance that relate to, design of the building and signage, and there's some landscaping standards in there. But one of the standards is that when properties in the commercial zones are developed, they put in that 5-foot wide walkway. The biggest comment there from staff is that the way the ordinance is written is that walkway is supposed to be on the property, not within the right-of-way, as it's meant to be, maintained on the property and not handed over to the town to be maintained. So that walkway, it's really flexible in terms of how the applicant lays out their property and how it relates to abutting properties and how those properties are developed. It's possible that could go in that existing 15-foot landscape setback in the front, but we would just want to have a little more discussion on that as we work towards the final application. Other than that, there were no major issues or concerns on staff side.
Great, thanks, Kyle, appreciate that. So Eric Doobie with Trillium Engineering, along with Kyle Berwick. So basically, I won't go into a ton of depth on the existing, but the existing, we basically have existing building that's here, sidewalks, bunch of nonconformity that's happening, and then our existing entrance on that, basically the south side of the existing building. And we're going to remove all of those and basically so demo that and the existing tree that's out, I believe in this area that's there. Kyle will go to the next, go to the proposed. And then at this point, putting in a new 50 by 70 building here, 2-story with the grading, and actually works to our advantage of having some, I'll call it basement space, because of the way Green Pest works. They really want to be able to have 3 separate garage doors, overhead doors, for what they utilize for trucks and things like that. And it will also be able to utilize some of that as storage. And then, of course, they have just parking in general with mostly their vehicles that they're looking at here at the rear of the building, and be able to drive in, load, whatever the products are that they're using on that, and be able to drive in and out, and then maintain that. We're trying to get as much parking spaces as we can because of the way the business has grown, and be able to have those vehicles on site. And then, of course, we have, with the grading, we have a retaining wall that's up on top, and then we have a little bit of customer parking, and then, additional parking up on the uphill side of that. They don't have a lot of customers that really come to the office, but they do have some. So most of the parking, as Kyle had just mentioned, kind of diving into some of that. Most of that is really around the business itself and what their needs are. That's what's driving what we're trying to gain for parking. And then we have basically the sidewalk entrance from the upper lot into the upper story, which is office space for the most part for the building. And we can, take a look at what we've developed with the architecture for the building itself. And as mentioned, landscape buffer, front, sides, and then we're doing, maintaining our stormwater. We've already taking a look at the stormwater in general, we'll be able to get treatment within that parking lot and then meet the standards, Chapter 500 standards for that. Most of the lighting, or actually all of the lighting, is really going to be building mounted. We really don't want to have, spill over that. We're going to use cutoff fixtures, so we're not going to have any spillover onto adjacent properties. Utilities are we have existing water sewer connections. We're going to have to do a new utility pole. Realistically, our existing power comes from off-site, not owned by us, so we're going to have to work with CMP and be able to get that. We are going to sprinkler the building, so we're going to also need to have new water line installed on that. And then because of the basement and the way that's laid out, and the fact that we'll have bathrooms down there for employees as well as upstairs. The grading doesn't work out, so we're actually going to have a pump station here and then pump up to the same location of what we've done before. So that's the existing site. Working with the grading, we do have a dumpster location that's basically in this back corner that we've worked on, or we've located in that area for easy access for a truck to be able to come down and not do too many turning movements on that. If we want to jump over to the building elevations, that's probably our best. So, and at that point, just trying to work through, some of the, with Kyle and some of the codes and with code enforcement and really trying to come up with the elevations that meet the ordinance on this. I can certainly talk about that. Obviously, I'm here for the engineering side for the most part. So, but we are happy to talk about the any architectural comments. We can note that and then work with our architect to be able to give them that feedback. So I think we're showing some material differences, a lot of fenestration as far as windows, things like that, a little bit of material differences to make things stand out. I'm not sure of the colors yet, but let me just walk through. So basically, this elevation that we're talking about faces Route 1, and then we have the 2 side elevations. So this would be from the upper parking area with that retaining wall that we show with the lower window up on that. And then, of course, we have I guess we'll call that the north side elevation. I don't know if they're labeled exactly, but we're labeling it east elevation. And then, of course, the Route 295 elevation that has the overhead doors, a couple access doors, a couple dormers. We are going to build that out, but we're gonna build a third floor accessible space up there, but not actually build it out for offices at this point. It's future space, but it's going to be structurally built with windows and with appropriate floor loading and framing and things like that, but not actually built out at this, at least on the front end. So, but we've already incorporated, there's not going to be any fenestration changes for that. It would just be interior, fit up that would work specifically with code at that point. So,
Not required, right?
so I think that's mostly it as far as what we have: building, parking, utilities, and things like that. So I'll turn it over to the board.
Any questions?
I had 2 questions on the site and 1 on the building. So it looks like there's potentially in the drive down to the back at the lower grade, a semi-steep area there between like 102 and 104. If I calculated it correctly, it was around 11%. Is that steep in the civil engineering world, or is that just a...
No, for short stints like that, we do that to get to, basically to be able to utilize that, that basement space. So, I mean, you see some, so when you're on highway design, for instance, you get 7% grades or 10% grades where they show, signs saying, hey, steep grade for the next 2 miles or whatever it is, something like that. Usually because of braking and things like that. And 10% sounds like a lot, or 11% sounds like a lot, but it's really not for a short stint. Be able to, it's going to be plowed, it's going to be accessed. So realistically, it's steeper than what we normally see. But even on a 5% parking grade, it's actually not that steep, not as steep as you think it is.
And then the second question is, I can see how it's really easy to get to the dumpster. Getting back out, do they have to like turn on the cross pitch where the grade is
They may have to turn, but we also have very wide aisles on that too, and it'll end up being probably early morning when most of these dumpsters are taken care of. So, or if the truck driver so chooses, they can back up.
Okay. And then the other question was on the building, which looks great. It's a massive improvement in terms of compared to what's there. Has a nice scale to it. And I feel like between the gables on the front side and the differentiation, it will speak well for itself. And you clarified that what would be the second story from the main facade, 3rd floor of the building, is in fact real and not a faked roof line. The only thing I had to say, I guess, the question is, we just wasn't sure what the material usage was around those gables. I mean, it kind of looks like a panel, but maybe when it comes back, there can just be a little more definition about that. But
We could certainly take this. We wanted to make sure we talked about some of those fenestration items, at this point. I'm assuming it's going to be, like LP Smart Side Brow, some low maintenance materials, some things like that, some natural materials. I don't think we're have any metal pieces that are out there, metal siding, vertical or horizontal. So I think we're trying to get more of a natural look, but also make sure that maintenance, long-term maintenance-wise on this is also going to, be sustainable. So, but certainly we could start talking about colors if, or something else if the board, would like to.
So I'm going to say, while a nice gesture, the board should not talk about colors because that is not a review criteria.
We can't talk about it. We'll listen.
Hunter orange, please. Talking about materials, great.
You want to stay away from the subjective stuff?
Yeah.
I have one question about the demo materials. When you take down the old building and, clear that site, where you have a stockpile area that's protected or, that that you're going to put on the plan for us?
Stockpile area, it's going to go.
Stockpile of the demo materials.
It's going to go right into dumpsters. So they'll have 30, 40-yard dumpsters right to Pine Tree, Casella, something like that. That's typically the way it goes with a large excavator, and that's what I'd see nothing different on this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gone in a day.
Just an observation or question on that south elevation, and also echo the comments others would make. A very attractive building. It'd be a nice upgrade, so looks good. You did mention customer parking, which would be to the front left, I think. for that customer to enter the building, they'd walk all the way around back and come in through those doors in the backside? I don't see it.
So, no, we actually have this bump out that, it's shown on the large gable, but this is a walkway that's behind that 15-foot setback, and then you enter into the main space right from here. So handicap, I guess we didn't label that as a handicap spot, but handicap access, we can only have 2% cross rate max, so.
Goes to the side of that.
So we need to meet that requirement.
Thank you. As I understand it, both from the documents and your presentation, I believe you said that the parking is being designed basically for the existing capacity of the number of employees you have, and again, the customer parking in the front. Is that correct?
And more.
Okay.
And-
Well, I was
and-
going to say, that was the question I really had, because you're talking about now the top floor being not built out.
Correct.
Have you given thought to that, the parking that you're planning as it compares to the potential use of that extra space?
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to maximize parking in general because of the, basically the growth of the business, the number of employees, and of course the space. And, we've already done some layouts of those spaces with office space and things like that. But, as we know, those are probably going to, be revised a little bit here and there. But for the most part, we know that, in these cubicle setups or office setups and things like that, we know how many employees. And that's, Kyle made that comment about, be prepared to talk about that. And we'll make sure we dial that in for the next submission, with the number of employees and number of anticipated employees. So, and some of the office people are also, because they don't have many customers, realistically, it's mostly phone calls and things like that, then most of the people are going to be able to, a couple of office people will be able to park on the upper spot as well.
And I, by the way, this could be very long in the future, if at all, but given the nature of how you're designing this with parking based upon your specific business, just to keep in mind for any future transfer of the property, if you want to, even if it's going to someone with similar use, that could, the parking requirements could be different based upon upon that use, and I'd recommend you notify whomever you sell it to, hopefully never, but when it actually happens, they bring it back to the town for discussion, because that will probably be something that has to be evaluated at that point.
Sure.
Eric, the site seems like a good match for your building requirements.
It was a little bit challenging. It wasn't quite as, honestly, I thought it was going to be a little bit better looking at it when we first looked at it. I'd like to have a little more steepness on some of it, just in the fact of, I saw one of Nick's comments was, about curb stops and things like that. So realistically, this retaining wall here, and we've been using a lot of these, I forget, there's a bunch of them, but the precast ones that they sell. And, so they're coming in, they seem to last, in my opinion, they seem to last longer than some of those old Keystone, like block walls. The block walls are basically like an actual concrete masonry unit. And I've noticed that a lot of those are, with rain or maybe just whatever's happening, they just disintegrate. Maybe it's the cheaper versions of them. Anyway, some of the new stuff that's come out tops themselves, and there's a bunch of places around here. I've actually installed them myself, or one of them helping a friend. But they can be stamped and have they're precast, but they can be stamped and they're, so you don't need the fabric. They're probably about this wide at the base, and then you can stack them on top, and they're gravity retaining walls, which are nice with capstones. And so those tend to work out really nice. Obviously, the stamp section is going to be facing out towards, towards 295 and also towards the neighbors in this particular case here. So, because we have two different conditions where we're holding back soil, and then we're holding back soil here, and then we're actually reversing. So we actually flatten out because of the way that we slope from high from here, high, and then low all the way to this corner. So that's why, forgive me for the long-winded answer on that, but the reality is it's not as nice as I would like it. I'd rather not have that retaining wall, honestly, on this side. I'd rather just have a small piece of it, like down on this side. But unfortunately, because of that height difference of what we're looking for between here and here, that's, with the trucks, and they're not huge trucks, we're talking about smaller vans and trucks that we're utilizing for this, but still.
Your plan is to come back in here within the next couple of months?
Yeah, we basically have I was telling Kyle that we basically have most of the submission. We just want, and we think we're on the right track, but wanted to make sure we're on the right track with this meeting. But we've basically done our drainage study at this point, so we're ready to go into peer review and resubmission and be able to come back and then, hatch through hopefully any final details.
Well, to the extent this was a presentation of your concept, I think you got positive feedback from the board.
Thank you very much.
Any comments from the public before we, please come up to the mic and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Amanda Kent, and that's my husband, Nicholas Kent. We own the building here to the north side of this project, and we are an antique vintage gift shop. We've had pretty major runoff issues from Route 1 going around our building from the north side around the building and heading right toward your proposed parking area. And my concern is only that we communicate and coordinate so that what you're doing doesn't cause a problem for what we have, and maybe increase what we currently have there to fit what you're doing as well. So, because this is the first time we've seen any information about this, although we both are really good neighbors, we don't see each other at all unless somebody from our shop who's coming to our shop parks in their parking area, which we try to avoid. The only other issue I see is that right now our paved portion is only the front, not our back, which is all gravel. And I just don't know what's going to happen with groundwater flow from our area to your area and back. Not to mention the groundhogs. I don't know what's going to happen to them. But so that would be, I think, our major concern. One concern, too, is in terms of taking down the current building, that it's done very efficiently and easily and plopped right into the big old dumpster and taken away so that we don't get a lot of the overflow of dirt, dust, etc. Because again, we use our front porch on the front of the building to have items for sale. So I think we just need to communicate. We've worked with Doobie before. They put in our back second floor. Oh no, Doobie didn't, sorry. No, that was down the street. Sorry about that. Is there anything else, honey?
Landscape.
Oh, yeah, we just wanted to make sure that in terms of the landscaping between the two properties, that, again, if trucks are going in and out and we're trying to do business, that's not going to become an issue. So having some kind of good landscaping for barrier of sound. We have tenants who are on our second floor. We are a legal two-family, or rather a business and residence, and we do have those residents go out in the back and mow the lawn and have children play, and so we just want to make sure that we keep that plausible. But we are willing to work on our back too. We had a major issue with the water district, where in this area here, in that area there, all of one of the pipes burst this winter, And so we still have major ruts and runoff going all the way around the back from that issue, which just exacerbated what we already had an issue with. So I think we need to kind of look at that together. But we think it's great. The building looks good, and anything that upgrades, we recently, a couple of years ago, painted our building, which we thought improved it quite a bit. I think that's it. Any questions that they have for us, we're more than willing to work with and talk about. We love being on Route 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All of the issues you raised are part of our review process, except the woodchucks. Thank you very much. Any other comments? No. Thank you very much. Next agenda item is Carpe Diem LLC for 31 Main Street across the street for site plan review and design review. Kyle?
Yeah. Just pull it up real quick for reference. So as I think I had noted in the staff report, if we're just looking at this from the site plan side of things, the site plan amendment aspect of this, we're really looking at a 675 square foot deck addition. That would typically, something of that scale would fall under town planner staff review because it's such a small addition. The reason this is coming forward is because this is in design review district. This is a Class A building. So there's really the two parts. There's the proposal of the deck in the front, which we, the application had some detail on. Just trying to get to the plan. So, and then there's this window to the side where the new proposed door for the Main Street side entrance would be going. So in terms of ordinance requirements, the property would still meet all front setback requirements. The Village Commercial 1 also has a requirement that within that front setback, you have a landscaped area. So you can see the existing landscaped area here with the tree. So the deck would kind of go in a portion of that, but there would still be about, it looked like 7 feet of landscaped area in that front setback. So that still complies with the standards for the Village Commercial 1 district. We noted that there are, when we're looking at design review and the compatibility with, nearby properties, this idea of a wooden deck or patio can be seen on other properties along Main Street. I think a similar material can be found on the side of this building. We were looking at the historic data sheet that we have for the property. It does appear that that right side porch area where the new door is proposed to go had a door and entrance at some point there originally, and then that got renovated or modified at some point. So yeah, there weren't too many comments or concerns from staff on this. So happy to answer any questions that the board has, but otherwise I'd turn it over to the applicant to go into more detail about why they're looking to do this.
Hi, I'm Melissa Wilkins. Thank you for your time. I own Freeport Market and now 31 Main Street across the way. So our mission has always followed the downtown vision plan. We basically give home to Main makers, Main vendors, and entrepreneurs that are looking for a space in Freeport and act as basically a incubator for those businesses in Freeport. Part of the reason that we love 31 Main Street is the building. We love historical buildings. It's a stunning building. We are here tonight seeking approval to add a front door onto the building on Main Street. I think we're probably one of the only buildings on Main Street which doesn't have a door onto Main Street. that really impacts traffic into the business. It's a confusing entrance for people. There's really no front entrance. So we understand it's a historic building. We recognize that, and we respect that historic basic architecture and cultural heritage. This area did actually have an approval on it previously for a door, and I think originally had a door in there. So it did come before the committee or board previously and got passed. The reason we really would like to have a deck in the front is to activate this end of town. It's pretty quiet down here, and I think if we can create a community space and a little life out there, that would be great. With regards to that vegetation and everything in the front, the deck actually, there's only dirt in the part that we want to put it. The flowers are in front of it. If you go over, you'll see. So it won't disturb any of that. So we did get a fit-up grant from the town, which we really appreciated, towards adding in a coffee shop, cafe part to the business. We are partnering with 5 main coffee roasters. They'll all be part of it, which brings business to them. And then also with food makers from Fork Food Lab. They're going to supply our food, which brings in more main businesses to Freeport, which I think is really exciting. I do think this is a huge part of our puzzle to make that business work over there. And yeah, that's it really. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm sure you have lots. Peter Wilkins will be doing the work on it. He will be leading the project. He has a strong background in working with period homes and understands the craftsmanship and sensitivity required handling historic properties. Pete had worked previously on some Princeton properties, so he knows this, and we did spend quite some time trying to find a door that would work in that property, that would blend in, and that was period for that space. So if you have any questions for me, let me know.
The drawings show 2 different glass arrangements in the door you're adding.
The drawings that you have was one. Yeah, I'm going to bring Pete up because Pete is doing this. Yeah.
Hello, Pete Wilkins. The original design was going to be a 3/4 glass mahogany door, but we were trying to source something from an antique door. And the one that we found is a half-glass mahogany door. The only thing that needs to be changed, I believe, would be the glass in the door for safety reasons, is take out the existing glass that's in it and put in a safety glass so that should somebody they can't put their hand through the door. The door is going to open in, and then on the interior, we're just going to do basically an area just to kind of limit the amount of cold that will flow through the building during the winter. And the deck is going to be, at this time, it's only going to come up anywhere from 14 to 16 inches, and there will be a step going up into the door, and it will come over to the existing porch that's on the side, and there will be 1 step up onto that porch. The stairs for it will be on the left side, as shown over there. With potentially maybe in the future doing something where we could put stairs off onto the right, but that's the exit currently, so we can't really put the stairs off to the right for people to exit down into the exit of the parking area.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Staying on the door subject, the term decorative was used, and it looks like in the 3D views that it's like a leaded glass. Is that?
No, it's not. It's not going to be a leaded glass. It's going to be a clear safety glass that's placed in. Portland Glass is going to do the install on the door. I just have to bring the door down to Portland Glass and have them do the install. But I have to purchase the mahogany from Hammond or Hancock Lumber, and I'm going to make the frame, and we're going to strip the door down to the original mahogany color, do a light stain, and then seal the door as well as the frame, and then keep the same white trim that's on the building, trim the outside of the door with that.
And so, I guess 2 more things on the door. 4 feet, it's a big door. Not necessarily an easy thing to like swing open. So I think it's really important which side the hinge is on and which way it swings.
It'll be hinged on the right, swinging in.
Okay,
Going in, it'll swing
better.
into the right.
It doesn't show that way on the drawings, but that makes more sense for people approaching and not going off
Apologize for
the
that.
edge of the deck. And I guess actually my other question was having to do with the deck material. It looks like it's pressure treated. So I'm questioning pressure treated in this location as appropriate.
I put pressure treated only for, at this time, what I would like to use would be yellow cedar in the future, but the pressure treated is more, because we'd like to open mid-June. So between the door and the deck and then the other interior work that we're doing, the pressure treated was just something just to get the business open.
Okay, that's a lot of pressure treated just to get going, but.
It is going to have a skirt board around it, an AZEK skirt board, hiding the actual framing underneath.
Okay. I mean, most of the buildings in the nearby vicinity have hardscape around them. That's partially what brought this question up in my mind. I could see with the landscape buffer there and commitment to landscaping that a non-hardscape material across that expanse could work out. The more recent sort of porch-like structures that have been made in the recent past or have a composite, so it seems like that would be better, or something more natural feeling and pressure treated. It sounds like you're going in that direction.
But my only issue with composite is that because of the climate that we're in, when composite gets a little bit of ice on it, it's extremely slippery. Natural wood or stone tends to afford you a little bit more of a grip while you're walking on it, and we'd like to be able to, on a nice day, if there's a little bit of sun outside and it is wintertime, people can sit outside, without having the issue of, potential little bit of ice or something like that on there,
Okay, I hear your point. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Linda?
I'm trying to get the picture that I see on your P1 sheet, which is the one prior to that, I assume, yeah. So the side of the building that the door is going to be on is going to replace that whole glassed-in, like, porch area? That's what it kind of looks like?
Yes.
So that is then going to be changed and look, you're putting different room space in a different roof. I just want to make sure I'm seeing this in the right way.
No roof space. It's just the upper glass panel, the divider in between, and then the lower glass panel that will be removed. The style on the right that holds the other glass panels on the right-hand side will remain, and then the style on the left side that is all the way there.
Be able to go
Sure.
point to that a little?
This panel,
Yeah.
that panel, and that dividing style right there will be removed. This post style here and the style post here will remain, and then the door will be fit into that space in there. And then the white trim will be used to infill up here at the top, so the head space will drop down slightly, It's not very much because the door is 7 foot tall. 8 foot tall. I think it's 7. And the trim, the casing, not the casing, the frame, mahogany frame will be here, inside of here, and then the white trim will just butt up to the style here and then the style here.
So as the building goes towards the back then, from the door corner, it's going, you're going to be removing or changing those, I don't know what the technical term is, but they're the double windows that go along that whole side?
That will not be touched. It's just that front, those front
But
two
you don't,
windows.
it doesn't show it on your developed picture. The
So,
next-
Yeah, the
Linda,
lower right.
if
yeah.
you look at this one, so you can see that the door going in where that front large window is, and then the other large windows along the side there of that area remain the same. So it's, the only changes are that front window here becoming the door, and then the deck, you know, here's the front of the structure, and the deck would go in front of it in that area. Nothing to either side of the building would change.
All right, it's not the way it looks. If you look at that bottom picture, it's not, does not look like the other picture with the.
I think this is just trying to show,
Still shows down here.
I think it's just the perspective of the drawing that makes it look a little, you know, I think it's showing that front facade where that front window is getting replaced with the door, but then this is the side of that same area with the windows
And
remaining.
if you just slide quickly up to the other picture, I'm not trying to be picky here, but it's a whole different look. One of them is like a glassed-in, I'm calling it a porch, I don't know if that's what you would call it, and the other is not, it's got filled-in 2 windows. It's just different.
It's glass.
All right, I mean, I just see 2 different pictures there.
I agree with Linda, but what you're saying is there, what exists now on that whole elevation is staying as is.
Correct.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any questions from the public? Is there a motion?
I'll do it. I'll motion. I'll step up.
Okay, there it is.
Propose the following proposed motion. Be it ordered that the Freeport Project Review Board approve the printed findings of fact, site plan amendment, and design review certificate for Carpe Diem LLC, Melissa Wilkins, for alterations to the existing building and site at 31 Main Street, Tax Assessor Map 11, Lot 21, including replacing a window with a new door and the addition of a wood deck along the front facade of the building to be built substantially as proposed, with the application dated May 1st, 2025, finding that it meets the standards of the Freeport zoning ordinance and Freeport design review ordinance, with the following conditions of approval. 1, the approval incorporates by reference all supporting plans that amend the previously approved plans submitted by the applicant and their representatives at Project Review Board meetings and hearings on the subject application to the extent that they are not in conflict with other stated conditions. And 2, prior to construction, the applicant obtain any applicable permits from the Freeport Code Enforcement Department.
Second.
Any discussion?
Other than the fact that I'm pleased that you're doing this, and I hope it's successful.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you for doing this project.
Yeah, it's great.
The last item is election of chair and vice chair. In the past, we have dispensed with, we have not had a secretary, as I recall.
Hey, can I say something?
Yeah.
On the list of the town boards, my name has secretary on it. I would like to remove that name, but, you know, that secretary for me, but
Okay.
it does say that.
Okay, so then we will do that, and we won't elect a secretary, if that's okay with the board. The 2 positions to fill are chair and vice chair. Is there any thought on Nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Ford Reiki as chair. He's done an outstanding job and sets great leadership for us.
Thank you, sir. Any other nominations?
Seconded.
Thank you, Drew.
Everyone's quick to.
Yeah, I know. Okay. All in favor? Thank you, I'm happy to do it. Nominations for vice chair.
Could I like to nominate Jason? I think Jason brings tremendous, extensive experience on PRB and also brings a technical expertise that's absolutely key for what we do and just to be a great fit.
It's his second stint on the board, I think. Is there a second for that? Second. All in favor? Thank you, Jason.
Congratulations.
We have a,
Yes.
So we're sitting here because I thought you were going to talk about the junkyard that's on 10 Marvin Way. Was that on your?
No, that's not on our agenda.
I thought,
I think it might have been on the council agenda yesterday evening.
because Alex had said that would be on this.
Sorry.
There might have been a miscommunication. I mean, Alex is pretty familiar with the projects that were going on this agenda. I'm not sure.
Are you familiar with that one?
No, we're not familiar with it. In the future, agendas for all the town meetings are posted on the website. Sorry that you had to spend an evening with us.
Yeah. That was last night.
It's the 21st.
Okay, then that's what that is. Was it brought up yesterday?
I think it was discussed at the council meeting last evening. Yeah. So those meetings would be available on recording, so you could go online. Actually, Tom might, if you want to catch Tom on the way out, he might be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's my bad, because it does say that I got the email on the 20th.
Thank you, and thank you, board. Is there a motion to adjourn? Any other business?
Motion to close.
Second?
Adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
thank you for coming, even though you didn't need to be here.
Appreciate it. We didn't know we were that exciting.
I kept looking at you to see what you were here for.
Yeah, well, it was okay.
See you guys.
And yes, we'll be looking at Halfway Rock tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, go on the website. You're next.
Not too bad. What time is it? It's not 8 yet.
See you.
Hope you make it home, Ford.